Good evening, everyone. I can speak Mandarin, but I think it would be a struggle if I were to continue in Mandarin because I would not be able to pronounce the terminologies in Chinese. Therefore, allow me to speak in English. I would add a bit of Chinese if possible. Right. I'm in the Department of Tissue Engineering and Regenerative Medicine in University Kebangsaan Malaysia, also known as UKM. That's in KL, you're right, and I'm based in the hospital because we are under the Faculty of Medicine. We have been doing tissue engineering and regenerative medicine since early 2000, maybe end of 1990s, early 2000. Let me share with you, because I was asked to talk about telomere and telomerase. So I would, today's talk, I've just limit myself within that, but I will elaborate since I saw my predecessor, Dr. Chien, has really gone very in-depth into his whole journey of his whole medical journey. Okay, but before that, I would like to make a disclaimer because I only got to know BioLive 2 weeks ago, where I was introduced their product, and in a very brief time, I was made to understand some of the efficacy of their products. But I must make this disclaimer: I do not know enough BioLive, neither their products, as I've not used their products before. And whatever that I'm sharing here would be views of my own and do not represent UKM, neither BioLive. All right, and that's my department. Yes, definitely grown in size. We have around 80 researchers there now. And that's if you have been to UKM in Kuala Lumpur, Cheras, that's the campus. But we are based on the top floor of the hospital. So it's very strategic because we are a research center where we are beneath we are in the same premise with the wards and with the surgical theatres, and that's how we would be able to work very closely with clinicians and our surgeons. And that's very important when we do research, to be clinically relevant. Okay, so when I said I did not start my journey in regenerative medicine from the beginning, because I was into cancer. So that was in sometime in 1997. I was doing my master's in University Malaya, and my topic was to find the biomarkers to find the biomarkers to predict cancer aggressiveness. So how can we find out how aggressive a cancer could be, and how can we prevent that or treat more aggressively? And I was working with colon cancers, I was working with breast cancers and cervical cancers, and I was in fact initially working with P53. For those of you who know, P53 is a gatekeeper of cell proliferation, and so definitely, when you have cancer, your P53 overexpresses itself and it doesn't control cell proliferation. So your cell proliferate, right? And it was then that I found something as well, which was truly my interest. That what was the secret of these cells? Because when we take these cells out of our body, they can grow forever. And don't you hope that we can also be like cancer cells and grow forever? So there is a secret to their immortality. And that brought me to my next phase of research. I will go deeper into the telomere and telomerase later. And it was then that I found that the cancer cells produces telomerase, and by overexpressing this telomerase, by expressing more telomerase, they are even more aggressive. So I ended my thesis concluding that telomerase activity actually predicts cancer aggressiveness. But what it says is, if you if the cancer wants to live longer and they want to live more, by being able to proliferate more, they need to activate telomerase, okay, which is something that all our cells are able to activate. So all of us are able to activate our telomerase activity, and with that, we can be like cancer. I know I'm saying this in a manner that are contradicting myself, but I guess if you want, the secret of living longer for the cells is to activate telomerase activity. All right, and by that they were able to extend their lifespan. Right, next. So when I went into my PhD study, I brought that concept in mind, but I was going into regenerative medicine. So maybe many years before this, you would have seen such a picture. It's called tissue engineering. So it's deeply associated with regenerating your own tissues, or organs. So when you have a damaged tissue, I think in today's context, we can regenerate your tissue. So from then on, besides working with cartilage tissue, this is a mouse carrying cartilage tissue of an ear. We went on to build bone. That was my PhD. I was building bone. I'm very happy to know Dr. Chen, because I'm still building bone now. I've treated a few patients, those who have very big chunk of bone, a bone loss, and we were able to regenerate the whole piece. Because all of us know that we have regenerative capability. All of us can heal ourselves, right? To a certain extent. Liver can grow, to a certain extent, right? And at one time we thought our brain would not have the ability to grow or repair itself. But that's not true when we found stem cells in the brain, because it can regenerate. But how do we activate them to regenerate? That's the question. But without going into how to activate your stem cells from growing, which is what Reborn is doing, I guess, we were taking it out from your body. So we were taking cells from the patients and regrow them. So we gave them the best environment to try to coax them to grow. Okay, so many a times we don't only need the cells, but because we can't wait for the cells to slowly secrete its matrix. We call it matrix. 纤维, he has to produce a collagen and all that to make the shape. So we sometimes combine this with some material, so that we can shape it. So we were able to, at this moment, we were able to make skin. We have treated burn patients. We have made bone, I've mentioned. We have made cornea. At one time, there were acid splash going on. I'm not sure whether you still recall that incident where there were people going around splashing acid on females especially, and we actually managed to salvage someone who has an acid splash on her eye, and her cornea was melting away, and we make a cornea for her, and she was able to restore vision to a certain extent. And so from there, okay, this is roughly what I've mentioned. So we have to take the cells from your body and coax them to grow, and either combine them sometimes, or use them as cells itself, but sometimes combine them with material and let them mature and give it back to you. So that's tissue engineering, and that's no hard science actually, it's just hard work, okay? And now you would understand that we need to take the cells from you, and there is only so much cells we can take from you, and but the fact that we can expand them, that's a good thing. So we don't need to take a lot of cells, we take a bit of cells from you and we are able to grow them, right? But there are also certain limitations. We can't grow all, we can't, say for example, if I'm going to grow skin, the easiest way is to get skin cells from you and grow them. So that's what we did. We get skin cells from you, we grow the fibroblasts, we grow the keratinocytes, meaning the two main types of skin, 表皮跟 the dermal layer. Okay, so there are epidermal and dermal layer. So the skin there, the cells there, we took it out to grow. And so there are certain cells that are easier for us to harvest, and we need to take it out from your body. But obviously there are also cells that we don't want to injure you. For example, I wouldn't want to operate your brain to take out your brain cells to grow. That would be too risky, right? So there are limitations to what we can do. But luckily, we found stem cells, right? So 干细胞, and you know, 干细胞 is something is what we call mother of cell. There are cells that give rise to many different cell types, correct? So 你有干细胞，你可以再制造更多不同种类的细胞。So that is 干细胞. And so in our facility, we are able to. I'm not sure whether I'm blocking. Alright, so we are able to get 干细胞 or stem cells of stem cells from various sources. In fact, it's found that you have stem cells all over your body. Alright, so 你有干细胞隐藏在不同的different parts of your body, 在不同部位. And what's the role of these stem cells? So normally they can stay dormant. Sometimes they stay dormant. 它隐藏嘛, so they dormant 就是静静的, okay? 就是没有 proliferate, 没有生长, okay? Alright, but there are times when there is a signal, when there is tissue damage. Now, okay, or even sometimes inflammation is one of the key to trigger them for the rescue. So this 干细胞 will be triggered. The stem cell will be triggered to proliferate or migrate to the site of injury and repair. Okay, so that's the job of stem cells. And here I show this is where we get our stem cells from. We can get it from bone marrow. We can get it from your fat. We can get it from umbilical cord. I think that's one that I think excites a lot of people because that's a product that we usually discard, right? Not like old times. I think even my mom kept my umbilical cord. You know, can you imagine? I have my dried umbilical cord. But nowadays, nobody except the Muslim, they do still keep the umbilical cord. But with consent, sometimes we are able to even get them to donate a segment of the umbilical cord. So we can get stem cells from the cord blood, from the cord itself. We can get it from the placenta, 那个胎盘, right? And we can get it from your wisdom tooth, 你的智慧牙, because that is your original tooth, right? Your baby tooth, and we can get it from deciduous tooth, meaning baby tooth. So that we can get stem cells from there, and that's the last one is a picture of apheresis, and that's a process where bone marrow transplant patients are able to extract bone marrow cells through a machine where they will be harvesting blood stem cells. Okay, so and that's and in there we can get a small population of blood stem cells, a big population of blood stem cells, but a small population of mesenchymal stem cells, or sometimes in our scientific community we rather call them mesenchymal stromal cells, or MSCs, right? But besides that, in UKM we also work with other stem cells because mesenchymal stem cells only have certain it has its own limitations as well. There are only certain cell type that it can differentiate into, 就是它可以制造一些细胞，但是不是全部。For example, it's hard to make the MSCs turn into neural cells. Very difficult. We have tried. It can look like neural cells, but it can never be functional neural cells. We have tried to coax MSCs into heart cells. It can secrete proteins like heart cells, but it cannot beat. So to do that, we have to resort to more primitive stem cells. 更之前的干细胞，就好像embryonic stem cells. Okay, ESCs are embryonic stem cells, and embryonic stem cells Because UKM, we run IVF. We have an IVF center. We run in vitro fertilization procedure, and many a times we get surplus eggs. In fact, they are fertilized eggs, and if the couple who underwent the procedure agrees, they would donate this for research. So we get embryonic stem cells from this source, and I think more excitingly, now there's since 2012, since earlier than that, right? But 2012 was when the person who discovered this technology was given the Nobel Prize. We were able to get any cell from you now. I think the easiest is probably skin cell, 对不对？你的皮肤细胞最容易拿，或者是血最容易拿。Okay, we are able to turn your blood cells and your skin cells back into ESC cells, ESC-like cell. Okay, and we call them iPSC, induced pluripotent stem cells. And that technology is also available. All right, and we are doing it in UKM. And with these cells, you can make neural cells. You can break brain cells. Okay, so that's why they are very highly valued as well. So now it seems that we can cure everything, right? Okay, so but I just wanted to impress on you that this is how we grow cells in the lab. And you can see there are 3 different cell population here. What you see, this is actually a skin cell, keratinocytes. 你的表层皮肤细胞 okay, keratinocytes. And different donors will have cells that grow differently. So that's our challenge. In fact, most of the patients who needed tissues are patients who are old, right? Of course, there are those younger who has accident and all that, but many of the tissues that need to replace are from old patients. And old cells from old patients just doesn't grow well. I'll show you the next picture. Okay, so you can see how the cells grow in the lab. Okay, so in this picture, what I'm trying to impress upon you is this is young cell. Sorry, it's not very clear, but you can think of them young cells like young people. How do they look under the microscope? They look shiny. Okay, they look slim. Okay, and they very tight. Okay, and they can move faster. And for the age MSCs, they are dull, 没有发光的哈 very dull. They are big and they are flattened. Okay, and they grow. They move very slowly. And in fact, they don't proliferate much. Okay, 已经很难再生长了。So, and when we stain these cells with a marker for senescence, senescence is a state where your cells stop growing. It's a signal to them that they have to stop. Okay, or it's either they stop because of injury, because of stress induced, or maybe because of telomere length limit. They've come to an end of their life. That's why they trigger the senescence, and they will trigger a protein called lysosomal, a kind of lysosomal enzymes, and we can detect it. The blue color shows that they are senescent cells, and they are undergoing a lot of changes, where a lot of damage in the cell, and they are trying to get rid of them. Okay, so that the blue color shows that. Okay, so this is a problem. Initially, maybe not a problem, because actually there is beneficial role of senescent cells. We found that senescent cells can support the surrounding cells, the young cells, to grow. So they can play a supportive role. So it's not all bad. But it will come to a point if many of these cells just accumulate and they eat a lot. The thing is, they continue to consume. But if many of them are around, they may trigger another problem. okay, when they accumulate a lot of waste in the cells, they would trigger some inflammatory, they will secrete some inflammatory cytokines, inflammatory agents, 就会发炎. Okay, so when this happens, it's very bad. And when they trigger, so there are a lot of changes that will happen. Some of the changes will be, there will be mutations, there will be more genetical, there will be more mutations accumulating in the body. And as I mentioned, the senescent cells will start to produce inflammatory cytokines. And at this stage, you know, when they are at this stage, these senescent cells, just remember the word SASP, okay? Senescent associated secreted proteins. So when they are secreting these proteins, these are bad old cells, okay? And why I'm saying this, because I always like to think of, you know, the scenario like a community. So we have young cells, we have old and young, right? So when we are old, I guess we can choose to be supportive of the young, or we choose to be very toxic. Okay? So it's only when the old become very toxic, they become a problem. And so this also leads me to just give you a concept of what telomere length is. 刚才有人讲什么端粒，对，端粒 alright. So at one time, we thought that cells, you know, if I take it out from your body, when you grow it in the lab, we thought we can grow it forever because we give it the best condition, right? We give it the food and all that in a protected environment, free from invasion of 细菌, you know, 没有细菌的感染. So 这个细胞应该是一直在生长, but that's not true. Okay, your cells do age. Just now I showed the cells do age, not just because there is a stress from the environment, but because it has a limit. And that limit is called the Hayflick limit. And it has been predicted that your cells can grow maximum. You know, when we say grow means 它分解. One cell become 2 cells, 2 cells become 4 cells, 4 cells become 8, 16, that's how they grow, right? And every time they grow, I think Dr. Chen actually mentioned just now, every time you grow, the end of your chromosome, this is your chromosome. I know I'm quite technical, but I thought since you hear all these terms with reborn, you better understand what it is, okay? Alright, so this is the chromosome. Chromosome is just a condensation of your genes, okay? We have 46 chromosomes in our cell. Okay, right? So we have, including the XY chromosome, 对吗？应该是大家基本知道哈 XY chromosome determine whether you are male and female. So we have 46 of this, and there are many genes inside the chromosome. And what is telomere? Telomere is the green part. It's the cap of your chromosome. It's the protection, the protective cap of your chromosome. So because your chromosome contains all the genes, right? Many, not all, so many genes. So you have 46 of them, so there are many genes contained in the chromosome. You want to protect them. And so when you divide, when you grow, when the cells grow, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, you must make a copy of all your chromosomes so that you have one set for another cell, correct? And every time you photocopy, like copy this chromosome, they don't copy everything. A bit of it is left behind. So you think of it that, you know, the person, the protein that has to do the copying will have to occupy this place. That, okay, I'm going to copy this chromosome. So, but the place that they occupy, that part is not copied. So every time you divide a bit, not copied. The next one shorter, the next one shorter again, because every time the protein that does this copying would have to occupy a bit of that strand so that it can read your DNA. Okay? So it becomes shorter and shorter, and it's predicted the most can be around 80. Some said 50, so 50 to 80 times. So that's the limit, because beyond that, your genes are involved. Critical genes are involved. That's why it has to stop. Okay? So that's your biological clock, your telomere clock. Meaning, no matter you say that you want it to grow forever, this is the limitation. And the other one is, we all think that we are made up of our genes, right? 我们的基因就是代表我们。But not all genes are turned on all the time, correct? So some of it is turned on when you need to, sometimes it's turned off. And in different parts of your body, we are all made from the one cell, correct? Originally, we come all from one cell. You agree or not? 对吗？我们是从一个细胞来的。Okay? So your different parts of your cells in different parts of your body turn on and turn off certain genes. Okay? So that they function at different parts of your body. And so they found that it's not just the genes that determine you, because how it is turned on and turned off. And it is found that throughout when we age, there seems to a pattern that everybody almost follow the same pattern. There will be certain genes that it turn on and turn off at different phase of your life, and they have actually tried to map it. So by mapping it, they are trying to predict your age. Just now we said telomere can predict your age. Same thing, how your gene is turned on and turned off, that map can also determine your age. So that is called epigenetics. 就是不是 genes, but 你的 genes 之外的 ，OK， 表观好像是叫做 OK， 就是表观 ，OK， alright， OK， I hope I can skip that technicality just to give you that brief. Okay, so now come back to my cells. Okay, so when we look at cells, then I was wondering whether the cells, why do they is it because how old do they stop growing? So can I predict when I get a donor of certain age, the cells won't grow? Or was there a difference between male and female? Frankly, I noted that female stem cells are easier to grow. It could be a personal bias because I don't have the figures, but it's just being a researcher in the lab, that's what I noticed. I don't have enough numbers to conclude. I couldn't conclude that female has better growth rate, but I could conclude more than 40 years old, the chances of me growing the stem cell, the MSCs from that person is just very thin, the chance. Okay? 超过40岁，你的干细胞我拿来养，我很难养活。Okay? So I just want to emphasize that. This is from a person who day in, day out grow cells. Okay? Alright, so this was my PhD. And so when I detected the telomerase activity, this was back from, then I thought, okay, like my cancer research, when I was doing my master's, I detect. So I don't have many figures also. Those are the age, 16 years old, 18, 14, 7, these are everyone represent one person. Right? And up until 60 and above, I would not be able to detect any telomerase activity. 就是60岁之后，我已经在他的细胞找不到这个这个端粒酶就不 active 了。所以这个又是另外一个 message which I thought it was very important, that no telomerase means they are just not proliferating, 不能再生了。So this is from another study in 2018. They have shown that the age can predict, just like Dr. Chen said, he has a age prediction of he used telomere length to predict his age. So this your telomere length not just predict your age, they were trying to predict how long you can live. Okay? They show that there is a correlationship of telomere length and how long you can live. And the other one is telomere length also can predict whether you have osteoporosis and heart disease. Okay, those with shorter telomere length would have more chances of developing heart disease. Okay, so they have a lot of data. These are in the hundreds. I think it was 600 over patients. Okay, so it's more reliable than my small number. Okay, so then with that very few samples that I had, those old patients, So I was scratching my head. Can I make the telomerase activity higher and see whether I can make them grow again? Because these are old patients. These patients come to me want to do knee surgery. Okay, because we do new cartilage for them. Okay, using stem cells. And so, imagine a 74, 80 years old come. Okay, so I have to grow their cells. So initially they have no telomerase activity, as I mentioned before. So I force telomerase activity. Of course, this is not using herbs, not so nice, using reborn. I don't have that. I was cloning. There's a way I can introduce the gene to make it express. So we make the telomerase activity express in the cells. And so this is before and after. And the passage number is how much can they grow. They can grow at least 2-fold longer, meaning their lifespan increase 2-fold longer. 就是双倍了了哈，双倍的增加它的那个细胞的寿命 just by activating the telomerase activity. Okay, so that's the experience that I had with telomere and telomerase activity, and it continues to be something that I do now. So I introduce telomerase activity transiently, 就是暂时性的去 activate telomerase activity for old patients, so that when I give back the patient, when I give back the tissue, 就算是那个软骨细胞，我也要给它年轻一点，它自己的细胞，但是我要给它年轻化，才给回它。So that's what we do. Next, I'd like to introduce mitochondria. Okay, 这个可能看起来好像一个虫哦，这个虫很重要。This is a very important organelle in your cell. It's called mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of your cell. 它就是给你 energy. 它就是制造energy 的一个 component in your cell. Okay? And 这个我要给你看，这就是 this is the round shape is the mitochondria of the MSC. Okay? Of most of our MSC will look like that. Okay? The mitochondria is round. Okay? And at the end, this one is from another patient, but I took it from the heart. 它的心脏细胞，你看它的那个长长的 ，okay, the long mitochondria is so the mitochondria is elongated, and there are more of these mitochondria. So what does it mean? Because your cardiomyocytes need a lot of energy because it needs to pump the heart, okay, it needs to pulse, and so it needs a lot of energy. So they have very big mitochondria. So this tells you that, you know, in order for you to have a lot of energy, you need a lot of mitochondria. And so, because the MSCs usually are asleep, okay? So only when we are trying to grow them and coax them to grow, then they will wake up and start to proliferate. So what we do is in our lab, we do introduce some growth factors and hormones to induce mitochondria to form. Okay, to get more mitochondria forming, we call it mitochondrial biogenesis, and by that we introduce these cells into the body. Okay, so isn't it better? Meaning 我不只是给你干细胞，我给你很精力充沛的干细胞。Okay, okay. Like the next thing is, so when we do this experiment, these red cells are the MSCs that we have increased the powerhouse. Okay, so the red color actually stains the mitochondria. So there's a lot of mitochondria, packed with mitochondria. Okay, the green one is the heart cell. And what happened to this heart cell? Before that, the 72 hours, 3 days, I don't give it food. No food for you. We give it very low oxygen. So the cells were dying. This is like your ischemic heart. You know, when your heart 阻塞，对吗？你阻塞的时候，你的细胞没有氧气，没有食物，没有血来， so 它就来慢慢死了，是吗？ Okay, so this is the scenario that we are trying to create. We are trying to starve your heart cells. So the green ones are the starving cells, and 50% of them died. So I make sure I only have 50% of them died, 50 still alive, but they are dying if I don't rescue them. So we introduce the stem cells, the MSCs. And what happened, there's no laser. I'm not sure whether you can see the red cells donating the mitochondria to the cardiomyocytes. Can you see that? 看到吗? Can you see? The red cells, like the hand, giving the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, to the dying cardiomyocytes. And I take this as a very important message, that is also another function of your stem cells in the body. They rescue your dying cells. Okay? And I always tell this to my students, if a cell can do this, why can't we? Why can't we help others? Okay? So they donate the mitochondria to the heart cells, and by that we were able to rescue. I can't remember, I have the graph I didn't show here, but we were able to rescue maybe 70% of the cells, okay, by transferring the mitochondria. All right. Okay, so the last few parts is just I would like to, I think I don't have to say a lot, but we are in an aging society, and Malaysia is going to be 50% of Malaysian population is going to be over 60, where we have no telomerase activity, remember? Huh? And then by 2030, 15%. Okay. And interestingly, many people argue that aging is natural, right? It's natural part, I agree. But even WHO has listed aging as one of the disease, because aging comes with a lot of disease, correct? A lot of problems, and these are the hallmarks of aging. By saying hallmarks is this is the latest, so I think there are 12 of them. But important you understand the hallmarks of aging. Some of them are drivers, meaning they are the cause of aging. Some of them are like passenger. They are affected by the aging and they continue to make it worse. And the rest of it is the manifestation of aging. 就是它表现出来的那个问题啊，老化的问题。Okay, so the 5 you can see, the 5 there are the driver of aging is, just now we said genomic instability, 就是刚才那个变化，刚才我讲说那个基因 on off 的那一个变化。然后 telomere attrition 就是越来越短 telomere。And then, 那个变化是 epigenetic alterations. Genomic instability means mutation 啦。这个是we understand that when we photocopy, sometimes we can make mistake. So when we make mistake, it's called mutation. Okay, so it become more and more we grow, sometimes we will have more mutation. So that is instability. Epigenetics, loss of prosthesis, meaning because of that, our protein because with all that mutation and epigenetic changes, our proteins also lost their balance. Okay, and finally is autophagy. Autophagy is just a mechanism of our cell able to eat our own cells, so that to get rid of them. Okay, the problematic ones, we have to eat our cells and get rid of them. And we found that as you age, they become not very efficient. Okay, and so I am coming to my last 3 slides. But as I said, I do not know enough products that are out there truly that will help for anti-aging. Okay, but I know there are a lot of studies. A lot of these are in trial, and I'm sure Reborn is also one of the products that are in that process. But I always look at 2 things. Are there animal models, animal studies? Okay, the first thing is animal study. So 临床之前一定有动物的试验。Okay, then after that there is also 临床试验, clinical trial. So these are these are things that you can do to age well, okay, that has shown to increase lifespan. One is caloric restriction, meaning don't eat too much. Okay, all right. So restrict your calorie. And then intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting 就是说有时有戒食 is good because like I didn't share, I don't have time to share. Actually, we have a lot of studies going on. When we grow our cells in low oxygen and also low glucose, sometimes our cells grow better because sometimes they need to be triggered. Certain mechanism can trigger them to wake up. Okay? So similarly in animals, we show that if you give the animals food all day, they actually grow fat and die faster. But if you don't give them food all the time, meaning they don't access the food all the time, you restrict them. They are always at the, but not to the extent they become stressed. But meaning not all the, you give the food like all day, you just place it there. So by restricting their calorie intake, they are able to increase their lifespan almost 30%. 就是只要做这个动作，在动物就是可以增加它的寿命30%，是很高我觉得Okay, calorie restriction and fasting. So maybe 我们的这个回教同胞他们现在在 fasting 也是有它的好处Alright. Then of course exercise and sleep has been shown also, because if we deprive the animals from sleep, we keep on the lights, we disturb them from sleep, they die younger. Okay, I think similarly with humans, it's just stress induced, and underlying that is inflammation. And finally, the one that I saw that has also shown in animal models is senolytics and NAD plus booster. NAD plus booster is good for the mitochondria. It helps to modulate your mitochondrial function. Okay, the NAD plus. Senolytics are some chemicals, or even it could be even like biochemicals from herbs that can increase the efficacy of your cell, getting rid of your senescent cells. 刚才那些好吃懒做，但是老了，然后又很多产生很多那个 inflammation， 那个 SASP 的那种老细胞呢，就是需要 senolytics. But I think recently we also found that maybe xenomorphics are better. You know why? Xenomorphics are chemicals that not just get rid of them, but able to switch off the toxic effect of the senescent cells. So there are already studies going on, and there are animal studies too showing that. So 这些是我觉得我们是可以自己做得到的。Calorie restriction, exercise, and maybe take some supplements. I do not know, but you have to follow up the the research. Alright. Okay. And so my final last two slides is, as well as we talk about increasing lifespan, but as many of us, 15% of us are going to go, of the world population, Malaysian are going to be above 60. I think more important is whether we have a healthy span. 就是说健康的寿，不是只是长寿，但是要健康的寿命，健康寿命，我觉得这个是WHO 也在鼓吹的，然后世界这个团体也是在鼓吹的 ，OK？ And so remember, whatever that you do, it can be your food, what you eat, the environmental factors. Meaning, just now I think Dr. Chen also talked about like toxic in the air and all that, everything around you, and socialization. We also found that by interaction, 跟多一点年轻人 okay, socialize. Alright, so these are beneficial. Okay, and I think part of it is also psychological, right? 就是你的思维、你的思想 can all affect your health, and because it will all go into not changing your genes. I'm not saying all this can change your genes. Very hard to change our genes. Some things are just written in our genes, 对吗？我们已经变不到我们的基因，但是 we can choose to turn it on or turn it off. 我们可以选择不要 express 那个基因，就算是有一些人有一些 cancer 的那些就是遗传的 cancer predisposition， 就是你 carry certain mutation， 然后你的基因有这样的比较容易得到癌症的，就算这样也不一定，因为 it can still be turned off depending on your lifestyle. So I feel that these are definitely assured, and that's something that you can do, and I must congratulate you that all of you today are doing something because you care about your health, and I think that mindset is already important, okay, and that itself will change, will probably change something in your epigenetics, okay, and because you care and you are taking steps to making sure that you live healthily. Alright, so my conclusion is, yes, you should understand aging, what aging is. So it's not just your age, but it's also being healthy, okay? And you understand what is the mechanism going on in your body. And so you can choose what is good for you. And as we cannot, meaning somebody said this, aging is a privilege. 能活到这个越老就是你的 privilege 了哈，你的一个 privilege 。但是呢 you can slow down aging is a science. So you have to understand the science. So you have to understand what is the scientific mechanism behind and the evidence. And from here, because I'm a Buddhist, I would say 每一样东西一定要有3个证明 ，OK？ 第一个就是一定要有理论的证明 ，OK？ So when I hear reborn, when they explain to me, I think they sounded very logic. They told me about telomere, they told me about activating telomerase activity, they told me about senolytics and all that. As I said, I'm not an expert. I've not studied their products, but in terms of theoretical, it is logic. I assure you, it is logic. Okay, and I within the 2 weeks, I look into the literature for some support. Okay, there's not much about reborn, but the individual components are published. I think there are 文证 okay, in the published literature talking about the components that are contained in the reborn and what is their how they act on anti-aging mechanism. And finally, I was happy if BioLife did not tell me that they were going to do clinical trial, I would be very doubtful, because that's the first thing that I'll say. Have you done clinical trial? And have you done annual studies to have more evidence? Okay. So I was told that there are ongoing clinical trial. Maybe not reborn as a whole, but maybe the different components are undergoing clinical trial. And for that, I'm very happy. And I'm looking forward to, receiving the results of the clinical trial. And for that, I congratulate the team, okay, for making this happen. And with that, I thank you very much. Yeah.